Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, excuse me, which means it's time for yet another salty Saturday morning. That is emblematic of just how the show's been running lately. I'm very sorry, guys. Also, my internet connection is really crappy right now, so if you see me roboting or lagging or like whatever, totally intentional, because we just want to make this as low tech and terrible as possible. Just so you know, you're watching a Salty Nerd production. But with me, as always, is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Dutch Butters. How you doing, Dutch?
Hey, hey, how's it going? Yeah, here we are. I feel like everything's kind of jacked up this morning. My lighting's all messed up. I don't even know why, or how, but here we are. No big deal. Nobody needs to see what I look like anyway. I'm hideous. So.
Yeah, nobody cares, Dutch, except for your feet. People do care about what your feet
look
like.
No, but that's nobody needs to see that either. I'd rather look at Tom's feet. So,
and it was weird because right before we started, Tom Connors was here before Odin, which almost never happens. But Odin hopped on in the clutch, giving him that extra 10 minutes. How you doing, Odin?
I'm doing okay. Just trying to stay alive, trying to stay active, trying to keep myself, healthy and everything with all this coughs going around. Sorry I was a little bit late. My son was doing his typical thing, which is not wanting to nap. So we'll see how long I can stay on before he comes in saying, "Oh, my room is too cold," or "Oh, I couldn't find my." Anyway, good to be here.
Well, good to have you, Odin. And everyone, I don't know if you know this or not, but Tom Connors Jr. had a birthday recently.
Oh.
You're closer to death, but we all still love him. Tom, happy birthday. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm broke.
How young are you, Tom?
I was about to say, is he like 60 now, or?
I'm so old, the doctor's going to start sticking his finger up my ass.
Oh, my goodness. Ew. So are you like El Guapo? Today he is 33 years old.
I'm 45.
They don't do that as much now, Tom, with the finger up your ass. Now they just let you play with your poop.
Oh, the doctor warned me like he was excited to get to do it.
Oh, boy.
Sure you want to go to that doctor? Just going to say.
I don't know. He's starting to remind me of Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors.
Because I'm your proctologist.
And this is a test.
Well, everyone, let's give I like turtles in the chat to celebrate Tom Connor Jr. getting 1 year older.
I like turtles.
There you go. And guys, we got a very special guest on the show today, returning triumphantly, Criticless Blaine, the guy who owns Criticless, the best movie and TV show review app and website on the planet, better than Rotten Tomatoes. How you doing, Blaine?
I'm great, man. Happy to be back. As I always say, this is my humble beginnings was on this show and with you guys. So it's always great to be back with the OG squad. So I'm happy to be here. And I forgot, I guess, since we're all doing that, or maybe I should mimic Kadish. So
no, you guys all have to live up to my high standard of professionalism when it comes to this show. So, but for those of you who haven't already, go to criticless.com, sign up, start reviewing movies over there. Oh, did you see that? Wow,
that was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's when the whores come in.
Yeah, that's Rotten Tomatoes trying to keep me from plugging their competition right there.
That's it.
But criticless.com, it's an app. You can download it on your phone if you're one of the Gen Zers out there. For us older guys, we like to go to the website. Odin, you are an avid user of criticless.com. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's really a wonderful community to post your reviews for movies. Some people initially, when I was trying to sell them on it, kind of were in the mindset of, oh, I don't need another social media site. But the beautiful thing about it is that it's much more a movie review database for you and for your friends than it is social media. There's a social element there where you can comment on people's reviews and you can share things, but it luckily is not like a Twitter. It's not like one of those other social media platforms. And so it's not something that you have to necessarily keep up with every single day like you do with those platforms, which is is why it's really nice, because you can customize it. If you want to get a bunch of notifications on reviews and join different groups and get notifications on posts from them, you can do that. If you don't have to do that either. I jump in whenever I can because it's always fun to see the conversations going on, and also to see some of the really bad takes that people like Blaine sometimes will have on certain movies. But we're not going to go there today. No. But yeah,
Blaine has the worst takes on movies.
I'm becoming rather notorious for it at this point. It's which is exactly why I started the site, is because I was always like, why does everyone disagree with me? Like, I need to make a site where I can just have my own little ecosystem of people that, I can have my friends with benefits where everybody does agree with me and I can just listen to them. So, and obviously Odin's not in that group because of his takes. So,
the minute you told me Pacific Rim is one of the greatest movies of all time, I knew
there
was a problem here.
Yeah. See, Dutch knows what's up. Pac Rim for life. We did that live stream there in y'all's studio, and
That's right.
I remember everyone loving it thoroughly. So,
indeed. You know what else we love thoroughly here are people who give us money. So go ahead and finish your thought real quick, Wayne, before we...
No, I was going to say, Odin hit the nail on the head as far as how the platform is set up, because we really do have like multiple different tiers of users, where it's like you can have people that just pop in and out here and there and drop a review and check on scores and whatever. And then we have people that double down into the social element and use this as their proprietary social platform. It's like we have people that aren't on X or anywhere else that use only us. And then we kind of have the complete opposite of it, where people just use us for reviews and stuff. The other cool thing is that there's a lot of big personalities that have been coming in on the platform. And so, we've got people like D-Day Cobra or, Dan Vask and Drunk 3PO, a lot of the G&G crew and other folks as well from all over the internet. So it's, it's a cool place to be, and you get to see other people's takes without having to hunt them down through YouTube videos and stuff. So.
Right on. Well, who else we have to hunt down is our leaderboard, because Scotty Dub and Made You Say Butts haven't been around lately, but we still miss them. Scotty Dub's still sitting pretty at number 1 with a $500 super chat, so he's our top super chatter. He's also our top contributor so far, but if he remains absent, that might change at some point. But we really appreciate Scotty Dub and Made You Say Butts. And of course, Mexican Iron Man is our most consistent contributor. In fact, he's already dropped a super chat today. And our top gifters are Jillian H., Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. So big shout out to those guys. Also, our goal for this stream is 10 new members. So whether you sign up for the membership or you get gifted memberships, our goal is 10. So if we can get 10 throughout the course of this live stream, we'll be sitting pretty. And also, guys, remember, if you like the show and you love hearing me clear my throat right off the bat, be sure to share and subscribe. We're trying to hit 25,000 subs by the end of the year. And I always appreciate it when you guys either subscribe to the channel or recommend it to someone who has yet to discover the throat clearing goodness of Salty Saturdays. Also, if you want to join our community outside of Saturdays, come join the Salty Nerd Discord over at saltynerddiscord.com. Dutch, tell people what they're missing out on by not being...
Why do you always ask me this question? Because I tell you the same thing every week. It's 99% gaming talk about Helldivers now, and about 2% talk about everything else. So it's a really great gaming community, guys. That's what we got going on over there. So yes, please come over and join us, and let's change the topic of conversation over there to entertainment and pop culture a little bit, because the gamers have taken over. That's pretty much it.
Yes.
So,
and everyone, you may have noticed that Brian from the Popcast is not on the stream today. He had a last-minute family emergency he had to attend to, but he's not going to be able to do the Brain Show today. So that means that we're going to be redirecting you to Mephisto's movie reviews, the Real McCoy podcast. Mephisto is celebrating his 46th birthday, and he's going to be covering one of his all-time favorite movies over there. So be sure to go over and check out the Real McCoy after the show is done. And we will be using the magic of the internet to auto redirect you over there. So big shout out to Mephisto and his show over there. It's a good show. And let's get to some super chats real quick. So Mexican Iron Man for $5. Elon versus Trump is just like the online YouTuber fights I've been watching for 8 years, proving social media is dumb and stupid. So glad I'm not a YouTuber. yeah, like online, these petty feuds just kind of spiral out of control. Just so happens it's from two of the most rich and powerful people on the planet, so everyone is paying attention. In fact, I actually got text messages from Dutch Butters himself expressing his displeasure at this bromance blow up. So we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. And of course, we got Chris Dickerson, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd podcast membership. Thank you so much, Chris. And guys, we've already hit our goal thanks to Dr. Daisuke, who gifted 10 Salty Nerd podcast memberships. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. Thank you, Doctor. You are a officer and a gentleman. We appreciate you helping us hit our goal for today. And guys, Jeremiah Hembry, $5, says, "Why are you late and gay?" Dutch, you want to answer that?
No.
Why are you gay?
I was early and I'm straight, so I don't know what to tell you.
So Jeremiah, we were trying to give our esteemed guest and panelists time to show up for the start of the show.
The only one who was late and gay was this guy over. This guy. That guy, Owen.
But in case you didn't notice, Brian from the Popcast, who is our queer representation on the panel, is also missing, and so that is why we are gay. So late and gay, that is how it goes. And of course, Mephisto's movie reviews for 15 Israeli dollars. I don't know what the actual name is. Revenge of the Nerds on the show today. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, that's the movie that Mephisto is going to be reviewing, is the original Revenge of the Nerds, which surprisingly holds up pretty well, at least in my opinion.
2 thumbs up.
Those movies.
Two thumbs up.
It's problematic.
Yeah. And for those of you who missed my explanation, yes, my camera, my internet connection, all that stuff, it's going to be acting up throughout the course of the stream. So just don't pay attention to me. Pay attention to my wonderful panelists and special guests. All right. So, yeah. So, guys, don't freak out. You're not seeing things. It is because my computer sucks at the moment. So, speaking of sucking, let's talk about Mass Effect.
Carry this show. Oh, God.
Yes. Well, you always have to do that, Tom. But so Mass Effect TV show gets a showrunner. And this was an interesting kind of article where basically, I don't know if you guys recognize this guy, but his name is Doug Young, and you might recognize him from the 3rd Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond. And that is because he was a co-writer and co-producer with Simon Pegg on that film. And he has recently been named as the head showrunner of the Mass Effect adaptation for Amazon. And guys, so like this is an MGM production, but I wanted to bring this up because we know Star Trek's dead. We know Star Wars is dead. And so the only thing that we have to look forward to is new IP. Rebel Moon was not the Star Wars replacement we were hoping it would be. And Mass Effect actually has kind of a storied history because the first game was amazing. Some people think the second game is better. I don't. But the third game, way before Disney came along and ruined Star Wars, Mass Effect 3 came along and ruined Mass Effect. So it was kind of at the forefront of, basically ruining beloved franchises. They have been trying to adapt this into a movie or TV series for over a decade. And the games were good enough where I don't know why this never happened up until now. But this could be, if adapted properly, Mass Effect could be the next big science fiction franchise. And Amazon's going to be pumping a lot of money into it and a lot of promotion and stuff like that. So I just wanted to go around and get the panel's take on, number one, what do you think of this choice for the showrunner? And number two, how do you think a Mass Effect series is actually going to come to fruition? So why don't we start with Criticless Blaine, the man who has the best takes on things ever. Go ahead, Blaine.
As I'm notorious for. Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious because it's like this guy, he doesn't have a huge track record. I'm excited about the prospect of this becoming something. Now, granted, and you did say Amazon is doing this, right? So that is also another thing that's in question because they're about 50-50 split as far as audience reception and everything else, just quality. Like it could be great or it could be horrendous. That's a real toss up, but this is a great franchise. But the thing is with this guy, with Doug, like he does have that new Chief of War thing coming out on Apple soon with Jason Momoa. I think that will be a good gauge. Watching that, seeing the quality of that, we might be able to judge potentially how this is going to turn out. But this franchise is awesome, and that's the problem here with these franchises is they take these franchises, and it's also a 50-50 split on if they turn out to be well received when it's come out in live action. And so it's a toss-up. I'm really excited. I love Mass Effect. It's very cool. This is a super cool sci-fi world. It does work for a good replacement for all the dead sci-fi things that we have now, but also it makes me worried because this is extremely beloved, which means that people are already going to be picky about it. It's not a new IP, so people are going to come in with preconceived notions of what they expect, and if it doesn't adhere to that pretty closely, then people aren't going to be happy. And so I wish this guy the best of luck. It is hard to step into a franchise like this, and with this having multiple games behind it and being well established, it's going to be a hard road to hoe for him. So, like I said, best of luck to him. I hope it's great, but I'll stay tentatively optimistic.
Well, I hope that they don't do what they did with Wheel of Time, which is basically just like change the entire underlying story.
Dude, yeah, I read all 15 of those books, and that show, it really bummed me out pretty bad. So the first like 2 or 3 episodes were fantastic, and then it just drove itself straight off a cliff. So
yeah, it was horribly mismanaged and only made like 3 seasons. Like they canceled it very recently. So Tom, with the the popularity of The Last of Us on HBO, especially the first season, second season kind of fell off a cliff in terms of viewership. But based off of that, people were like, okay, what other popular video game IPs can we translate into an original series? And it seems like Mass Effect, with the pedigree that it has and the built-in fan base and all that stuff, was probably the best choice for Amazon to go forward with next. What's your take on this?
No, and I don't care.
I don't even know what a Mass Effect is, to be honest with you.
It's a really cool video game.
I don't play video games unless they have Pac-Man or Donkey Kong in them. Then I play them.
Those are good games.
Well, what do you think about Amazon trying to have its own kind of like
surprised.
Star Wars or like whatever?
I mean, I guess if it's one of the next most popular games, it makes sense. I know that's going to be the next frontier, and I'm going to remind them that it hasn't worked the last 5 times they've tried it now, because only certain properties lend themselves to a movie when it comes to video game translation. I mean, even look at something like The Last of Us. They had the opportunity not to do what the game did, because they knew the reaction that the people had to what the game did. Instead, they still did what the game did, and none of us are going to be surprised when they say, yeah, we lost half their audience, which they did. Why? Because they did what the second game did. So, again, like, there's certain things with these video games, like, it's kind of it's not an egg that's easy to crack, or it's not, you can't, each one doesn't scramble the same way as the last, right? Like Minecraft, no one in a million years would have thought that was going to be a thing that was going to click with kids the way it did, but it did. And I'm not saying they cracked the code on video game movies, because what worked for Minecraft is not going to work for Sonic, or not work for Mortal Kombat, or not work for any other game that you want to insert here, whether it's Mass Effect or whatever. So, I mean, if they can find a way to make this work, I mean, I guess getting Henry Cavill involved might be a good start, because he seems to be the only thing that can get anybody excited over there. I don't know.
He's on multiple Amazon projects right now, right?
Yeah.
Like isn't he Voltron, right? Aren't they about to drop that with him in it?
Yeah.
And
Warhammer.
there's like Warhammer, yeah.
Well,
which I hear is also the nickname for his schlong.
Oh my gosh.
we need a cymbal crash after that, Tom.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go. Okay, so Odin. One of the interesting things about the Mass Effect game is that, so it was a BioWare game, and it was kind of on the forefront of the story first video game experience, where basically they crafted an epic science fiction drama that they then built gameplay around. And the Mass Effect universe has like a deep history. It's got like so many different alien races and aspects to it, and they were all fully fleshed out in these video games. And there's action, there's adventure, there's espionage, there's like hot chicks, there's like pretty much everything gamers want, right? But the really interesting thing about the first game and the second game is that there's a huge extremely cinematic story behind it. And that kind of led BioWare into adapting the Old Republic into an MMO and putting the story first in that and stuff like that. But I think that if they just did a straight up adaptation of the story for the first game, this TV show could take off in the same way in which Game of Thrones took off, because they stayed very close to the book in those early seasons. So I wanted to get your take on this. Do you think that Amazon is in a position to launch the next big sci-fi property?
I mean, yes and no. If you think about it logically, you think about all of the flops that they've had in their series, how much money they've dumped into these series and just honestly wasted in so many ways. And you would think, okay, no other company would be able to do much else because of that. But with Amazon, it's a very unique situation because they've just got so much money. They've just got almost an endless supply of money because of how many people use Amazon Prime, how many Amazon users they have. I mean, it is such a massive, over $1 trillion corporation at this point. So we are thinking about now a company, and Apple's in a similar position, though I think Amazon's in a much better one, where they don't really have to worry about money as much. They don't really have to worry about whether every single project they make, even if it costs a lot of money, loses a lot of money for them. Now, they can only do that for so long, right? Eventually, you do need to start turning profits. Eventually, you do need to start having money come in for these things. You can't just keep spending and spending and spending. So you might be able to argue that, but honestly, it just seems like they've had so many big losses, especially with Rings of Power being the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones of all, where I don't think it'd be a wise decision. That being said, these companies typically don't always do what is wise. So it really depends on the fans. If the fans want something like this, if the people who like those games, again, I'm kind of like with Tom, where it's like, I really don't care all that much about it because I never played the games or know much about the history of it. But it is something that, financially speaking, yeah, I think that they could do it just because of the fact they have a lot of money, not because they're in the best position necessarily because of previous success.
Well, Dutch, I know that you're a big video gamer, and you said that during the time that this game came out, you were kind of like in your World of Warcraft phase.
Yeah, I was. I just looked it up, and this Mass Effect came out in 2007 because I was wondering why didn't I play this game, and 2007. I was neck deep in Azeroth, man, and that's exactly why I didn't play these games. So I'm kind of looking forward to this because, like you guys just said, this is something I kind of compare this to Game of Thrones because I did not read the books, but I got to experience everything through the shows. And so now I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll get to hear this story for the first time through this series, and I hope it's good. Like Blaine said, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to be good because Amazon, you never know what they're going to crap out, right? It's going to be either great or a total piece of shit. And I hope it's good because it'll be all brand new stuff to me. So maybe I'll go give the game a playthrough. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I wanted to ask you, so like BioWare was known as like the RPG company. They made some of the best role-playing games in the history of video games, like Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, all these amazing games that had deep story, deep lore to them. And just like Blizzard, who used to be synonymous with very quality games, they've been corrupted, fallen off a cliff. But I feel like BioWare's demise started a lot earlier than Blizzard's, because by game 3, the ending to the Mass Effect trilogy was so bad that every single fan like rioted, and basically like they tried to returning their copies of the game. They let BioWare know that they were displeased with like this ending, and BioWare kind of stuck to their guns and said like, well, too bad, we're just going to change the colors and hopefully you guys will be okay with it. But what do you think about the state of BioWare these days in terms of like being a game company?
Like, well, I'm not a big RPG guy, so I don't really follow them a whole lot. But I think there's a lot of game companies out there that are just infected with this woke virus, and we need to pull them out of the fire and get them all back on track. I think there's I think there's the foundation there to make good games, and I hope they can continue to do so. But you know, who knows? I don't know what the future brings, man. I mean, the whole entertainment industry is infected with all of this woke DEI nonsense. You know, just yesterday I was really looking forward to this new game called Arc Raiders that's coming out, and I mean, I was really looking forward to this, and they came out with a new trailer yesterday, and it was just woke DEI bullshit, and my hype level went from here to just to the basement. I don't even know if I want to play it anymore. And you know, and I'm not the only one that thinks that way. You know, if you go look at the X stuff on that game, it's just like, what are you guys doing? Who are you marketing this to? You know, the 2% of the freaks that are out there that play the game, or the 98% of the people that actually play games every single day. You know, it's getting old and tiresome, and I need the industry to wake the fuck up, basically, and get their head on straight, just like Hollywood, just like the movie industry and everything else. It's all there. It's all bad. So
why do you think there's?
I was just going to say, BioWare is one of the companies that has gone off the cliff. I mean,
yeah,
they recently put out Dragon Age Veilguard, which bombed, and that is another one of the biggest franchises in gaming. Was that
I
series.
didn't touch it. I didn't go near it.
No, none of us did. And it's like we all just stayed away from it. It made no money. It absolutely tanked. And I mean, the thing is, even before they went the whole just woke route with everything, they put out that game Anthem, which also tanked. Like Kadish was saying, they were known as one of the best storytelling companies in games, and their most two like recent releases have been absolute bombs. So it's like, if that studio is attached to this show, we're freaking screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can trace it back to when EA acquired BioWare, and that's when they started getting really bad. But Dutch, I want to ask you, so, like, you know, you're a big World of Warcraft fan. Why do you think no studio is trying to develop a World of Warcraft TV show?
Well, they made a movie, and it didn't do that great. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe they will in 20 years. It seems to be what these things. I mean, Mass Effect's 20 years old. So who knows? I mean, they're still updating World of Warcraft. People are still playing it. There's a new expansion comes out every year and a half, every 2 years. So it's still a very active community that's playing the game over there. So I don't know. But I've heard rumblings that they're thinking about making the second movie, which would be interesting. But I haven't played the game in years now, so I really don't know what's going on in World of Warcraft. So I had to put it away.
I'm sure Blaine loves the World of Warcraft movie. Because,
we reviewed it on our channel
I
a
don't
couple
mind
months
it.
ago.
It actually was well received from like fans, but just no one wanted to because the trailers were awful and the visual effects didn't look that great either.
And the critics bombed the crap out of it.
Well,
which
the problem,
also doesn't help.
I think the problem with video game movies, kind of like what Tom was saying, is it doesn't matter how big of a production they make out of it. It's always going to have just a niche audience. I mean, some of
Minecraft.
Go
go
ahead.
Sorry.
No. You're going to say.
I was just saying. Well, in Minecraft, I mean, like you guys were saying, nobody knew. What was happening with that, the viral thing that was going on, to me reminded me. I'm like, oh, so this is what it was like for my parents with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
See, because my parents were like, I have no idea what the hell that shit is. I don't understand it. You know, they didn't get it. They didn't want to get it, right? But then when my mom took us to the Ninja Turtle movie on opening night, walking out of the movie, I think she enjoyed it almost as much as we did, because at that point she's like, oh, okay, I understand what this is. And maybe that's what happened with Minecraft, right? Like, as adults, if you're not somebody who's actively playing the game, you just watch your kid playing it and it's like video game Legos, right? Like there's nothing to it. There's no story. There's no, and I imagine that's the same way that people felt when they were tasked with making the original Super Mario Brothers movie, right? Because we got to remember that they didn't have all that lore that they have now. In fact, some of the movie informed the lore, which is hilarious, because if you watch the brand new movie from 2 years ago or last year, whatever year it came out, the first third of the Mario Brothers animated film is almost exactly like the original Mario Brothers movie, almost verbatim. Like their van breaks down on the way to a job that somebody else steals from them. They get sucked down a warp pipe. It's all the fucking same. It's like, did they just make the same movie all over again? Yet we supposedly hate that old movie so much when it's like, really, it's almost the same damn movie.
I mean,
but yeah, you're right. Like they don't lend themselves exactly to that kind of a thing. Sonic was like almost an anomaly because that movie has very little to do with the video game until you start getting into the more of the deeper lore in the sequels, is my understanding. So
I mean, there's a lot of video game movies out there. I mean, movies like Resident Evil that's a video game movie. I love that movie. Those are great. But I think those movie makers that make those movies, they understand their audience. They know how to use their budget correctly. And then there's ones that don't, like that Abomination Monster Hunter movie. Remember that? I mean, that was a piece of shit, right? So, but there's I know
made by the same people who made
made by the same people, and I know a
Mortal
ton of
Kombat's
people,
a weird one too. Yeah,
I know a ton of people who love Monster Hunter, but there's not enough of them out there, I think, to support to be the base of a movie like that. I don't know. It's just the whole.
Maybe I'm just that old school because like even Mortal Kombat was one. I'm like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And all these people come at me like, oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. It didn't follow the game. Blah 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 and the lore. And I'm like,
Mortal Kombat made by the same people who made Resident Evil and Monster Hunter.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know if I saw this movie when I was 14, 15 years old, when the original one came out, I'd have shit my pants because this thing was even everything I wanted the original film to be. And I'm like, I think we look at that original with nostalgia goggles on, but to be honest with you, but it's fun. But like, I'm like, people are like, they didn't go with the lore. It's like, what lore? I'm like, as far as I remember of the first 2 or 3 video games, all it matters is who wins. It's a completely different story no matter what. And they're like, no, there's established lore line. I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't played Mortal Kombat 6, 7, and 8, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even the same thing with the Sonic games too, where it's like the old fans of us that played Sonic back in the day were like, this movie doesn't seem anything like it, and everybody's like, yeah, well, if you played all the 3D ones and everything, it's it's all this lore and whatever. And I'm like, well, none of that existed when I played Sonic, so it's like it all depends on what fan base they cater to as well.
Yeah, and let us not forget that Paul W.S. Anderson, or as I like to call him, Paul Stanky Anderson, is responsible for all these movies that we have been talking about. And you know who else is responsible for supporting the show?
For me, it was just Tuesday.
Yes, Mexican Iron Man, who dropped a $10 super sticker. Thank you so much, Mexican Iron Man. And of course, Eric Winberg shows up to drop his obligatory Salty Nerd Podcast membership. Thank you, Eric. And the queen of gifted memberships, Jillian H., has arrived and dropped 5 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. Guys, we're killing it today on the membership front. 17 gifted memberships already today. This is fantastic. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about the summer movie season. And, it's the middle of summer. All the big movies are starting to come out. And with Criticless Blaine on the show, he has a lot of insight into what people are saying about these movies because he spywares everyone who signs up for Criticless. No, I'm just kidding about that. But I want to have like a panel discussion. I'm going to list off some of these summer movies that come out.
Yes,
right?
And I want to hear your guys' takes on these. So the first one up I want to talk about is Ballerina. Do you guys think Ballerina is going to do well at the box office? Do you think it's going to be a successful spinoff from John Wick? What's your take on Ballerina, guys?
No, it's not. Based off of the money it's making right now, it cost, I think, around $90 million budget-wise. It's projected to do $30 million domestically. It's not being as well received as the other John Wick films either. And again, as the John Wick films came out, they became less well received, even though they made more and more money. So I'm coming at it from a historical lens where every John Wick film made more money like every single time. And in fact, they had a series of films where the first 3, it doubled its audience every single time. That doubling stopped with number 4, but it still increased it by quite a bit nonetheless. We're seeing this drop down to be the 2nd worst opening in the John Wick franchise history. And again, because the word of mouth at least doesn't seem to be overwhelmingly positive, I don't think the legs are going to be there for it to make money. But hey, maybe that could change post-theatrically.
Yeah, and it's got a 76% right now on Criticless. Like everybody I've talked to likes it pretty well. I mean, it's not in most excellent territory, but also that's kind of hard to hit in general because that's your upper 20%. But either way, I think, like Odin said, I don't know that people were necessarily really anticipating this being great. They're marketing it based on Keanu showing up in the movie, and they're not being discreet about that. That was clearly very intentional, and it still didn't seem to generate the buzz that they wanted it to. I wasn't super excited about it, and I've actually been surprised because most of the people that I trust are like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. It's not as good as the John Wick movies, but it's at least believable. It's not the girl boss stuff, all of that. But I don't think it's going to have legs to carry it on for multiple weeks. I think it'll pretty much just peter out after this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it on video or on streaming here in a couple of days. All I want to know is if she gets her ass kicked by the stairway.
Bro,
that's
just a couple of times, but very small.
Okay.
Those stairs.
Yeah.
No, I think the problem with the movie is that it suffers from girl boss syndrome. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even matter if it's good, right? Because even Furiosa got good word of mouth, but people are just like, no, I'm not going to bother with that because they've been so burnt 50 times over with this crap. And it's like, why would we even bother when we know that's what we're going to get served, right? It's bad enough when we're going to go to Fantastic Four and a lot of people are going to go, wait a minute, this ain't the Fantastic Four, this is the Fantastic Females. And it's going to be the same thing with any one of these other shit. It doesn't even matter if John Wick is there, right? So what? This is an in-betweequel anyway, is my understanding. So this takes place before he starts falling down the stairs, I guess.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem too, is the story. And the way that they throw John Wick into the story, it honestly felt like, oh, you're just doing this so that you can have better marketing for
I think
your
that's
movie.
the reshoots too, Odin. I bet you $5.
Yeah, but it just feels like, wow, you wasted the storyline that had been built up through John Wick's world for the sake of this one to try to get more people out because you wanted John Wick to be in this film. That's honestly how it felt.
Yeah. The guy can bounce bullets off of his suit jacket, but when it comes to stairs, he is helpless. It's like so many of us.
It's a lot of stairs, man. I mean,
Him and Biden.
Yeah.
I will push back a little bit though, because this isn't the typical girl boss movie that we are used to seeing. Like, one of my favorite things the film does in the very beginning is, as she's trying to fight this one guy, the trainer basically says, don't, if you try to do this, you're going to lose every time. He's always going to be bigger than you. He's always going to be stronger than you. And so I like that because that's usually not what you're told. You're usually not told, oh, men have this biological advantage. Like, that's usually glossed over, ignored. But they actually take that on head on in a very direct way. And so she says, okay, you can't fight like a man. Like, you can't fight in that way because you're not going to win strength for strength. You got to cheat. You got to go around the rules. You got to create your own rules. And then they do have that cringy line, which I hated, which is, you have to fight like a girl. All right. But again, at least it was preempted by, hey, you're not that strong. You're not as strong as him. You can't fight that way. And throughout the film, they're pretty consistent with it, where she's always using a weapon, or she's always using like the momentum of the person. Like it's much more realistic of a betrayal versus the typical girl boss, where it's like, oh, she's just great at everything and she can just out-strengthen. She can basically destroy anybody just from a feat of strength. So I like that.
I heard the director, Lynn Wiseman, who was responsible for the Underworld movies and a bunch of Kate Beckinsale stuff, like the bad, what was it, Total Recall remake. But he has plans to spin Norman Reedus's character in this movie off into another movie type thing. You guys heard anything about that?
I didn't hear it, but within the film, it would make sense for them to do that. But Aaron Charman makes a great point as well. In the movie, she eventually does fight John Wick, and John Wick is toying around with her. So again, I do appreciate the fact that it doesn't try to make her into like the ultimate girl boss that we're so used to seeing.
Well, and a lot of people said the same thing about Furiosa, though, Odin, and it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. I
think the perception is. I think you're correct in the perception. People think because of the story and because of what we're used to. It's just sad when in movies like this, when honestly, I think it's a much better film than in certain ways than Furiosa was. I think that it's sad that people are going to not see it because of something that's actually not even true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Dutch's case, he's not going to see it because he doesn't want to go to the movie theater. So.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen the last John Wick movie yet, so that's where I'm at with this.
You're not missing anything, Tom.
No.
How dare you?
That's the problem. Is everybody said it's too long and too much. And
It is too long, but it's fun.
It moved into Looney Tunes territory, is what it did.
Well, I thought the last two movies were basically
It
video
embraced
games.
exactly what it was like. It set itself up to be this separate fantasy world, and it led into that. I still say the best fight sequences, some of the best ones we had, were in 4, and it was not because of the fighting. It was because of the location setup. Because I want now a whole movie set around the Japanese Continental.
That was all super cool.
Because that stuff was amazing.
I mean, did you watch the miniseries about the original Continental?
I did, and I actually liked it.
Yeah, same. I thought it was good.
Could have been better.
So Blaine is the Jim Cramer of movie reviews. So you can't trust his take on anything.
But if I'm if I'm in agreement with him, that says something, okay?
Because it says you're wrong.
Look, a broken clock can be right twice a day, Matt.
Well, Matt, how about you write a review on Criticless for once, and then I'll take your opinion seriously.
Yeah, I just wrote a review before the show because I forgot I didn't do the last Karate Kid movie review, so I quickly did. I
love them.
One.
Yeah.
So moving on to another summer movie.
Oh, okay.
Dutch, what were you going to say?
No, I was just saying. I remember how much we got crucified for our take on Wick 4, because we were right out of the gate. This movie sucks. People don't watch it, and we just got roasted.
Most people didn't like it
because you were wrong.
No, we weren't wrong. We were correct.
100%
Highest box office. I know that's not evidence of anything, but yeah.
I think you guys just don't like girls. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's a 79% on Criticless by 80 people.
Yeah,
it's 1 point from a most excellent, which I vehemently disagree with.
Those are all wrong. They're all wrong. They're all idiots.
Low effort shit missiles. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Moving on to the next movie that I want to talk about, which is the big summer movie of the summer, Superman. James Gunn's Superman, more specifically. So, Blaine, Odin, Tom, Dutch, what do you think of Superman? Is it going to overperform, underperform? What's your predictions?
You're a dick. I had pictures ready, and you have them out of the order that you put them in the email.
I think this is going to be the one movie this year that probably does more than what people are expecting.
Yeah,
it's the one movie on the list that I think I am going to actually go out of my way to go see in the theater. I'm a little bit excited for it. And it's the only one on the list that I feel that way about. And I don't even really know why. I can't tell you why. There's just something about this movie that I want to take the time out of my life to go see. You know, so that's basically all I have to say. I think it's going to do well simply because me and my wife want to go watch it, and we don't really go to the movies a lot anymore. So
I think it's going to live or die based on word of mouth. If this movie has good word of mouth, then the people that are, and I think like Dutch was saying, there's a lot of people. Superman's been around forever, and we haven't had a Superman in a long time. This is a new character. It has some of the more retro vibe with some of the marketing. It's going to get some of your older audience and the younger audience. But it also, like, if the word of mouth is bad, if people say this isn't good, you're only going to have about 2, maybe 3 weeks of decent box office. And also it's really going to depend on how well Fantastic Four does. You know, as to if it's any kind of competition, which I don't have. Not going to do very well. I don't have high hopes for. So I think that as far as box office wise, this is one of the better chances for a decent one. But I mean, I'm sure Odin, you know, he knows where the projections and stuff are. I mean, lots of people like and trust James Gunn as well. He has a decent track record in theaters, but a lot of people also hate him. So as far as the nerd community goes.
Well, here's I don't mean to interrupt, but this is why I know this movie is going to do okay. It's because I asked my wife just yesterday, because we saw a commercial or something, and I asked her, "Are you going to go watch this movie with me?" And she goes, "What is it?" I go, "Superman." "Oh, is that the one where it's all dark and nasty with the Jason Momoa and stuff in it?" And I'm going, "No, this is a brand new take on Superman. They're rebooting." And she goes, "Oh, okay, well, I'll go." But if it had been Zack Snyder, she would have been out. but
No, I think yeah. I
but
think
now
you guys
now
are-
she's in. So
All right, this might be the one this year that I think 90% of the people are going to walk out going, well, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was
Right.
going to be, or it was much better than I thought it was going to be. Because this movie's been under a microscope. And the nerd community is one of the worst offenders. Because outside of the nerd community, nobody else is having the same conversations we are. Everybody else is pretty much excited for this movie, and the proof is in the trailer. Go look at the ratio, right? The normies are fine with this. They're all on board with this. This is going to have the biggest opening of the year. This is why Disney is scared and put the Fantastic Four tickets on sale this week, so they could have the headlines all week saying biggest ticket sales of 2025.
yeah,
Because they know that's going to go out the damn window the moment the Superman tickets drop. And that in the trailers they've been running during the NBA finals, it's like those are the trailers you should have been running in the first place.
the what
'Cause
finals?
the NBA finals. They got Superman trailers going on right now with it, and they're all just trailers of him saving people and shit.
Yeah,
And it's
The
the ones that
NBA.
people are
everybody's watching that.
But yeah, no, I mean, as far as the movie to beat this year, it's going to be either this or Avatar, I guess, probably would be my guess. Lilo and Stitch might be the other one to worry about, but it just depends on how these movies affect that box office. So we'll have to see.
Right.
Because July is going to come in like crazy with Jurassic World and the other ones we're probably going to discuss. So, yeah.
Yeah, Odin, what's your take?
I think that it's gonna, if in best case scenario, I think that Superman's gonna do Batman numbers, because nothing in the DCEU in general has ever like taken off all that much, with the exception of Aquaman, which is the only film within that universe to have made $1 billion. And it is a big IP. James Gunn is a big name. You obviously look and see what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a great point about that last Guardians film, especially, and how well that was able to do down the line. I just think that there is too much apathy right now. And I think that if we're looking at pre-sales, we're not probably in the best place, because it reminds me about how Disney just tried to run with the whole, Fantastic Four tickets went on sale and all the sites crashed. It's like, I'm sorry, but that seems to happen for a lot of these movies that come out of Marvel, and not all of them do well. So it seems like there's a bit of a story being created there rather than an actual being a sign of people, doing anything. And even if so, it's because, okay, your opening weekend might be good. That doesn't mean anything, right? Because opening weekends can be massive, but then if you don't hold down the line, your numbers are going to ultimately indicate financial failure. The big problem also for Superman, as far as success, is that it has a massive budget. I don't care what James Gunn tries to say, but there are tax filings that show this film cost well over $300 million to make. So this film has to probably make close to $1 billion to break even. I just don't see that's going to happen.
We did the math on that, and if you do the math, minus 30% taxes is the 225 that they're claiming that the movie cost.
But they only reported a portion of the budget having spent in that location when they got that specific tax rebate. So it was not the entirety of the $300 million.
And as if Mikey's in the chat, he's also pointed out they will put more than what they're actually going to spend just so they can maximize their credits.
And
right?
there were
so
reshoots.
There's a lot of finagle. I still have yet to have any proof of any actual reshoots. This is the problem with Superman, is you have so much bullshit going around about this movie that's being made up, just flat out made up, that I don't even know what to trust anymore. And the bigger problem here is like, I don't even see where David Zaslav would ever sign off on that kind of money in the first place. It makes absolutely no sense, when the whole problem with the DC universe to this point was it cost too much. Because you're right, the movies haven't generated that much. But the big difference here between the Batman and Superman is the Batman looked just like the last Zack Snyder movie, right? The trailer, like, most people are just like, oh, so it's a prequel to the Ben Affleck Batman? I don't understand what this is, because it looked just like that shit, right? There's no mistaking this Superman with the Henry Cavill Superman. And I think that's going to be a big difference. Now, I do agree with you that we have hit superhero fatigue. It has set in. And I don't know if Superman is going to be enough to save it. I just think that from going forward is that the studios are going to be like, all right, unless it's a Spider-Man or a Superman or a Batman or an X-Men, it's not going to make any money. So we have to accordingly figure these budgets out if we're going to continue this superhero thing, because I think they will continue to try, like they do with the video games. But it's just we're going to be back to the way it was back when they're just going to, well, we'll throw $20-30 million at this Hellboy thing and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's
guys,
where they're at. Yeah.
Box office will be known by the second weekend, though. Because opening's going to be big, but how big is that drop off?
Guys, I'm going to go officially on record as saying that Nathan Fillion's haircut will carry this movie.
The Uncle Fester.
Yeah. It might. I mean, it's Gunn, so he's going to lean into the humor. People will probably end up loving it by the end of it.
Yeah, and plus you got that Peacemaker season 2 time leading up to it as well.
Yeah.
That was the other thing on the wife meter that I noticed. I told her who made it, and she goes, "Who's that?" And I go, "The Guardians of the Galaxy guy." "Oh, the Ricky Raccoon movie?" She goes, "Oh, well, yeah, I definitely want to go watch that." So I'm just saying, there's the normies out there are going to have an interest in watching the Superman movie. So,
all right, guys, let's tackle another summer blockbuster and get your predictions on it, namely Fantastic Four: First Steps. What do you guys think that movie is going to do?
It's going to be disappointing.
But I think Superman will have done better because I just think that it has a little bit more goodwill going towards it. Marvel does not have it at this point. I mean, all I have to do is look at the previous Marvel films from this year, and neither of them did well. I mean, you look at the Captain America, right? $415 million is where that film capped out, and because of that massive budget, it flopped. Even with the supposed $180 million budget, it would still have flopped. Then you go to Thunderbolts, which did a lot better word of mouth wise. It actually had a lot more praise, and yet that word of mouth didn't mean anything because that film's actually going to end up less than what Captain America made. And because that film is reported to have actually cost $180 million, that film is also a flop. So that's the metric that we have to go on. And so if anything, because it's Fantastic Four, because it's got a sense of newness to it, you may be able to see it be the better performing of the MCU films. I would not be surprised to see that film end between 500 and 650 million worldwide, which would not be good because that budget likely is insane.
What do you think, Blaine?
I think he's probably about right. The only thing that could save this film is if the rumors are all not true, and it ends up being fantastic. And everybody, I didn't even mean to use the same words as what it's in the film. But anyways, it is
Blaine.
Right. Fanforstic, yeah. It's one of those things like unless people are saying that this is just awesome and you really need to see it in theaters right now, I don't think it's going to do that well. Now, granted, it is the same director that did WandaVision. A lot of the normies really liked WandaVision. My wife, who's not even into all this stuff, has watched that show like 2 or 3 times. She absolutely loves it just due to the style and the vibe and with them going with the time period stuff. Like, if this ends up being one of those things where the hardcore nerdy community sees it and it's like, actually, this is really good. We should go, or take the family, or y'all should go check it out. It might save it and earn it a few extra bucks on weekends following. But like Odin was saying, Marvel is struggling so bad right now that I think unless it is like a known quantity of one of their big heroes like Spider-Man or somebody, they're going to struggle to get people in the theater.
I grew up buying comic books, Spider-Man, Superman, all the big names. I used to read them all. But one of the comic books that I never bothered buying and reading was Fantastic Four. I always thought it was kind of dumb. I didn't like it. Didn't resonate with me at all. And I think that I wasn't alone. I think this movie is going to have its base following the nerds. It's going to go to a superhero movie. It's going to make its 100 million in the first 2 weeks or whatever, but then it's going to just die because the Fantastic Four is not it's not a group that can carry a summer blockbuster movie where they need to come up with $1 billion in box office. It's just not going to happen, and that's part of the problem with the older Fantastic Four movies. Regardless if you love them or hate them, they've never had that fan following that it needs to make the numbers that they want to come from this stuff. They're not the X-Men. They're not they're not Spider-Man. They're not Superman. It's just they're not Batman. I'm sorry, but them hinging their whole summer success on what they think is maybe an A-team tier group of heroes when they're really probably in the C League is a bad idea. I'm sorry, and I know people are going to disagree with me, but that's just my experience with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
Tom, Ben Grimm is not the Hulk. He's a I'm sorry, he's just not. So
yeah, Tom, Marvel seems to be putting a lot of importance on this Fantastic Four movie to launch their next phase, leading into the Avengers films. Do you think this is a wise strategy for them?
Well, I mean, as far as it being a wise strategy or not, I don't know. But I mean, of course, they should have been doing this a while ago. I mean, they spent about $30-40 billion on them.
Yeah.
Because really, let's get down to it. What did they spend 70-some plus billion on to get Fox for? It was to get the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Star Wars. Because they ain't done fuck all with anything else other than Alien and Predator at this point. Because, yeah, like, this thing, look, I know we've been talking a lot. That's probably kind of the problem with Superman being under such a microscope, is most people are ignoring how badly this movie's probably going to tank. Because, I mean, I think this movie's going to do a lot worse than a lot of us anticipate. Because look at how badly the Thunderbolts did. And there wasn't really anything working against the Thunderbolts other than just nobody cared. Right? And this is even worse because you've got female Silver Surfer. The only thing going for it is the time period element. But to me, it almost feels like they're making fun of it more than they're leaning into it. We keep hearing that Sue Storm and a baby are going to be saving the day along with the Silver Surfer, which has been almost confirmed now, which is just more crap from the MCU that we were hoping we were getting away from. And we got Pedro Pascal, right? The one actor that everybody is sick of at this point.
They should have made Sue Storm Zendaya at this
You might as well have. It would have helped the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
Tom, you talked about superhero fatigue, but I think Pedro Pascal fatigue is actually more of a thing.
I think that's going to hurt this movie worse. I think you're 100% right. 100% right. Because the biggest problem with the Fantastic Four is that it's your dad's or your grandparents' superheroes, right? Like
right.
Dutch Butters was just saying, like, he didn't give a shit. Why? Because he grew up on the X-Men.
And
the X-Men were infinitely cooler than the Fantastic Four.
And I'm 55 years old, dude. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying.
There's no fucking 75-year-olds going to the movies to watch the Fantastic Four.
No, they were replaced by the X-Men.
Yeah.
There was a point when the Fantastic Four were extremely popular. You could probably even argue they were some of the most popular comic book characters out there. But then along came the X-Men, and everybody's like the Fantastic Who, right? I mean, they fill the same purpose at the end of the day. They're a family of superheroes.
Yep.
And then you have what everybody says, and that is the Incredibles made a better Fantastic Four movie than they ever could anyway. So at the end of the day, it's all about girl bosses, and in that sense, you can't have a family film then. Because a dad can't be a dad, a kid can't be a kid, the thing can't be the thing. And the female, don't even get me started on the female Silver Surfer thing. I don't give a shit that it was in 2 comics. I don't care.
2 comics. 2 obscure comics that nobody read 80 years ago.
I have been hearing that Galactus is pretty good.
And that's another thing is everybody thinks that Galactus is being set up as the next big bad. I hate to break it to you. This is probably the only time we're ever going to see Galactus. Because going forward, it's going to be Doctor Doom. Because guess what? The next movie's not called Galactus Day. It's called Doomsday. And a lot of people are along the same lines with me is they're going to end up setting up Reed Richards to be the next big bad. Doomsday is just... Robert Downey Jr. is just a red herring to distract us. The next big bad is going to be what's-his-face that Reed Richards turns into. I forgot the name, but yeah. So just watch. That's what's going to happen because they were desperate to get somebody decent in this role, but they were going in and they had a specific idea that it had to be a non-white actor. We've had more than enough people come out and say, yeah, there was about 4 or 5 very important actors that turned down the role before Pedro Pascal took it, right? And when it got to Pedro Pascal, it was just, well, let's see if we can fit it in his schedule because he don't give a shit, clearly.
Yeah, and I don't know if Marvel has the balls to take a diverse actor and turn him into a bad guy. So we'll see. But
he's a man. That's enough. Jonathan Majors was supposed to be the next big bad. Remember that?
Very true. All right, guys. John Yulden for £4.99, or £5 if you want to get technical. I enjoyed John Wick 4, but 1 is the best. Like and subscribe to this channel and Salty Nerd Gaming, everyone. Thumbs up.
Thanks. Man.
Quick correction, John. It's no longer Salty Nerd Gaming. It is now Dutch Butters Gaming, because
right.
he is the star of that channel. So get it right. And also Icthulu for $5. Fantastic Four is like Shakespeare. People respect the history, but no one will be going to see Othello in theaters. Also, Odin is wrong about John Wick 4 being good. Yes, Odin is very wrong about that.
Yeah,
Wrong.
Okay. It's okay for you to be wrong. It's okay for you to be wrong.
All right, guys. Speaking of wrong, let's talk about Trump versus Musk.
Oh goodness.
Otherwise known as the bromance is over. So, guys, there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter between these two, and my take on it is that they both have good points and they both have bad points that they're arguing. But what's interesting about this is that it's very public, and these guys were like BFFs just like 2 days ago, right? So all this came down to the passing of Trump's big, beautiful bill, which is actually a what they call a reconciliation bill, which is basically like a tax and mandatory spending type thing that is before the big cuts that Doge recommended could be codified into an actual like budget bill. And Elon came out publicly and said, I don't like this. This just creates more waste, fraud, and abuse. And Trump's like, well, this is the cornerstone of my economic agenda. We have to pass this. And then Elon basically started taking Trump to task about a variety of things. But the biggest thing he said is like, hey, guys, I can't be quiet about this any longer. The reason the Epstein files haven't been released is because Trump's named in them. And everyone was like, well, number one, we already knew that was the case. But number two, also, you've never seen the files. And so like, you don't know what you're talking about. And in fact, today, he had to delete that tweet. So like, there's a lot of stuff going on back and forth, but I'm going to start with you, Dutch Butters, because you texted me yesterday and you were like, I'm very upset about this. So what do you think about the Trump Musk stuff?
I didn't like seeing my two favorite billionaires, fighting with each other. These guys they're trying to change the world to make it a better place, right? And they had a little falling out, and I didn't like it. I don't like it. I'm very non-confrontational, Matthew. You know this. So when I see two of my favorite people out there fighting, it kind of upsets me. But the more I think about it, the more I feel like you guys know professional wrestling, right? I feel like this is kind of a work. I mean, you got all the left-leaning wackos out there that used to really love Elon Musk. Tesla, man, let's go buy a new Tesla car. We're going to save the world. As soon as he went on Trump's bandwagon, they all started firebombing the dealerships. They started, writing Nazi swastikas on the sides of the Tesla trucks, and Elon became the enemy number one. And now all of a sudden, he's having a fight with Trump just out of the blue. It was like an overnight switch. It was just like a really weird thing. And now you got all these people that hated Elon, kind of scratching their head, and some of them are starting to support him. You even got some Democrats in Congress that are starting to embrace the Elon a little bit. But what they don't understand is that Elon is mad because Trump isn't going hard enough. He's not being extreme enough on the budget cuts and all this kind of stuff that all these people that are starting to support Elon again are still against. You know what I'm saying? It's very strange. So what I feel like, I feel like it's a work, because all of a sudden he's gonna be getting all these people that didn't like him 3 weeks ago start writing letters to their congressmen and things to support what Musk has to say. And then in the end, you turn it around and Trump gets his way with everything, and then they're gonna go and they're gonna high five at the end, and everything's gonna be like a big work. Like they're both going to win at the end. So I don't know. It seems kind of funny to me. But
do you really think it's that big of a 4D chess move, Dutch? Like they're orchestrating?
I'm just trying to make it all work in my head. In my head, that's what's going on.
That sounds like some QAnon sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. But you watch. That's what's going to happen.
Well, Blaine, do you agree with Dutch? Is this just a big show to kind of like trick the Democrats into supporting this stuff, or is this like a legitimate feud?
I mean, it wouldn't. Nothing surprises me anymore. It all just feels like a show at this point half the time. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. Even I saw someone point out the other day, it's like with the stuff with Elon and him being like, oh, he was on the, Trump was on the Epstein list, all this stuff. And it's like, bro, it was just a few weeks ago. You were just like, your kid was going everywhere with Trump and, posting all this stuff. And it's like, so you knew all this and you were comfortable with him being with Trump, but yet now, he's on the list and he should be impeached and everything else. That doesn't track. So it just, either way on both sides, it just feels like a get for attention, which just seems to line up. The whole thing is so strange, but at the same time, unsurprising from the both of these guys because they like attention.
I just didn't figure it would be Elon that would be doing the heel turn. I figured it would be Trump the other way around.
Yeah, no, so, definitely. Which, and maybe that's because Trump can't do the heel turn anymore. He's done it too many times at this point. Right. It had to pivot to somebody else.
Well, Tom, one of the issues that was brought up in terms of like to kind of explain Elon coming out so strongly against the big beautiful bill is that it eliminates all these subsidies for electronic cars and stuff like that. Now, Elon's never been one to, in my opinion, to like care about, that type of thing. Like he's like, I have my principles. I'm going to stick to my principles, do what's right. But there does seem to be some type of like sour grapes element to this, where he's basically like, oh, like all these government subsidies that made my companies very profitable are now going away. So what's your take on that?
There may be something to that. Here's my problem with this. I was kind of skeptical of this big, beautiful bill to begin with, right? Because I'm somebody who, look, I've been so middle of the road with a lot of these things to start with. I've never been the biggest Trump fan in general, but one of the things that turned me was Elon Musk and then the attempted assassination and how he reacted to that. As far as like Elon, yeah, he's spurging out, but to me, it almost feels like there has to be a reason, right? Coming from somebody who probably has some sort of Asperger's or autism as well, and has never been technically diagnosed. I mean, I had issues back in the day, but they never figured out what the hell it was, and my parents never could. But Elon's kind of the same way, I think. He's acting out because there's something that's bothering him. If it's that seems extremely petty, right? Like, to me, I don't think he gives as much of a shit about that as there's something else in this bill. For him to go the extreme of playing the Epstein card makes me feel like he means this shit, right? And I see where everybody's coming from as far as his reaction to it, and like, I could see Elon's being the one kind of acting like the spurned lover in the relationship, or however you want to, make the analogy here, because we've all had fun. Hell, I even wrote a sad country song about him breaking up. You know what I mean? Like, it's everybody's having fun with it. But do I think it's some huge like QAnon thing to kind of trick the Democrats? No. I feel like there's sincerely some sort of dropping out between these two that had to do with this bill. There's something in there, and the fact that they have to raise the debt ceiling and all this stuff does give me pause, when it's like you had a guy come in and he cleared out what could have been tons and tons of waste, and now you're just kind of throwing him to the side. To me, it just feels like a lot of what the media wanted to say about him is they're giving the media fuel on both sides. So to me, it's just if anything, this shit should have been behind the scenes, right? It's great for tabloid content, but and a few jokes and maybe an SNL skit that'll come of it, but it just feels like when two of your friends are fighting, you don't like to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly what it feels like.
Odin, so like a lot of people are saying that Elon's criticisms come from an ignorance of how the budgetary aspect of Congress works. And what this is, because it's a reconciliation bill, like it's not something where they can codify discretionary spending. So it's basically about taxes, and it's about mandatory spending, part of which is military based, most of which is entitlement based. So like, stuff like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, stuff like that. And the issue that has been blowing things up is saying that like this is going to basically increase the budget deficit because it's going to add in a lot of pork barrel spending, like increased spending stuff. But what the people who actually worked on this bill have been saying is that the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, who basically said that it's going to increase spending to X amount, are basically saying that codifying the tax cuts that have been in effect for the past 5 years is robbing the government of the revenue that would happen if they expired, and therefore that's the spending, where it's actually like it's money that doesn't exist unless the tax cuts that Trump passed in his first term were to go away. And so there's a lot of like shenanigans going on out there about people lying about this bill, and it sounds like Elon might have bought into that type of thing. So what's your take on all this?
Well, I mean, I think that there's lying happening on both sides of everything here, right? Because I do not trust the Republicans. I do not trust the Democrats. I don't trust anybody with a political letter next to their name for the most part, because if they are going to be working in the name of a party, I typically have some issues with that, because party almost cult-like status is something that can oftentimes make people blind to realities that are going on. That's why my favorite member of Congress right now is Thomas Massie, because he is one of the only ones that's actually willing to say, yeah, I'm a Republican, but I'm also someone that is standing by when I say that we need to be fiscally conservative, when I say that we need to cut spending, when I say that we need to do this and this, that we actually need to stick to our principles here. And so I appreciate that, because there are not enough people with principles in Washington. He's not perfect, but I think he is one of the better ones that are out there. Same like on the Senate side, Rand Paul seems to be one of those voices as well, where he's willing to vote against his party, right, for the sake of principles and things that we should be holding on to. I think that really what it comes down to in this specific case is that there is a lot of bloat in this bill. And I wish that, and I understand that it's a reconciliation bill, but I also don't understand why this reconciliation bill has to be as large as it is. Why is it that you can't just do individual issues one at a time? Like, that's an honest question. I honestly don't know what the answer is, or if there is an answer, because it sounds to me like they want to put everything in here and then have everyone vote on everything. And the people that are honest are saying, okay, there's a couple things in here that I don't agree with. And so I don't, this is like you trying to hide the things that I would vote no on, just so that I would vote yes on everything else. And I find that to be a bit scummy. But again, if this is the only way you can go forward, that's one thing. But if there is a pathway where you could theoretically say, all right, let's vote on the tax cuts, make them permanent. Boom, that's a single vote. Let's vote on this and make it permanent. Boom, let's vote on this. Let's vote on this. I don't know why you can't do it that way, unless you're trying to protect your members from having to vote on things individually that may not be as popular.
No, the big reason, Odin, is because if they were to do it individually, they would need a 60-vote majority, or like some type of 60% majority. Whereas with reconciliation, it's a simple majority, so just 51 votes, or like one vote over the halfway point. And let's not forget that reconciliation is how they passed Obamacare, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that, like, they said Obamacare was a tax, therefore they put it into reconciliation, and then they were able to pass it with just like one vote, right? And so by doing the big beautiful bill, and it does account for like $1.3 trillion in cuts in government spending, by doing it all in one bill in reconciliation, they have an easier time actually getting it passed and put into law that way. And that's one of the reasons why they're doing it that way, and instead of breaking out into each individual like stipulation. And it's also another reason why I don't agree with Massie or Rand Paul about like standing up for principle, because if they actually cared about stuff, they would get these changes codified first and then come back and be like, okay, now let's refine these things. Because if this bill doesn't pass, guys, all of our taxes are going up. All of our taxes are increasing.
And let me push back there, because when have we ever seen the Republicans, or really any party, who have said, let's pass this first to find out what's in it. Let's pass this first so that then we can actually get to work.
But we
when
know
has that actually happened?
We know it's in it. We've got increased spending for border security. We've got increased spending for deportations. We've got cuts in entitlements. We've got codifying the tax cuts to keep everyone's taxes from going up. We've got no taxes on tips. We've got no taxes on gig work. We've got a sweeping array of tax cuts that will be codified into law so that we don't have to worry about the previous one sunsetting on us. So that we know exactly what's in this bill.
Also have a restriction that you can't put regulations on AI for 10 years. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So again, what's that have to do with taxes? What's that have to do with reconciliation? So that's why, to me, it sounds like they're saying, look at all these really good things that we're doing, but then ignoring the fact that it does have crap in there, like, again, a 10-year ban on even states being able to put regulations on AI and AI production.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a problem. And that's why it's like, we might know what's in this bill, but there's a lot of things that shouldn't be in this bill. And there's a lot of things that if they are going to lose votes for and not be able to pass it because they are in there, but they are still really, really bad things, yeah, I wouldn't trust that either.
Well, I guess my counter to that would be, would you rather get 80% of what you want and 20% of what you didn't, or none of what you want?
Depends on the cost of that 20% down the line.
Well, it's far more expensive not to get any of it, right?
Again, that's our perception. But if you have 10 years where you can't put regulations on AI, that could create a lot of problems that we're not even seeing right now.
Why would we want to put restrictions on AI, man? They're overlords already. It doesn't matter.
Also, we have to compete. We have to compete with China on that front. But also, there's the repealing of all those what do you call it, like Green New Deal mandates. Like the electronic vehicle mandates and all that other stuff. So there's a lot in this bill that is extremely positive, and the little stuff that you might want to debate over in terms of like how good it is or how bad it is, I feel like far diminished compared to like all the good stuff that's in it.
Little to you, maybe not little to others, like
maybe.
myself. Right.
I mean, it's kind of like the stuff, where little things got pushed in, like back when 9/11 happened, and all of a sudden then, it's these little things like with the AI or whatever, where it's like, could we end up in some kind of security state that's amplified or whatever from these little small things that are missed? But also it's like with the Elon component, the more we're talking about it, part of me almost wonders, it's like, we know that Elon knows that he has weight to throw around, and he saw that during the election. And it makes me wonder if it's just like, we will see a mending of the fences after this, but it's like he is just making a big stink to be like, I want him to pump the brakes, so I'm going to kick my feet and stomp and whatever to just slow this down. And that's really where it's at. And then things are going to be, fixed and whatever, if he can just slow this bill down and get some of that, like the pork removed and some of the stuff that's Odin is talking about or whatever, because it's not too late to take some of it out.
To see like the left's reaction to him coming out and being like, oh, I hate Trump now,
right.
Where like it's like a flip switched overnight, and the left's like, yeah, let's release the Epstein documents now, and like all this other stuff where like I could possibly see this as like a coordinated like theater moment between Trump and Elon to kind of like fuck with the Democrats. But at the same time, like, I don't think that that's actually like what's happening. I think Elon has these bouts. Like, do you guys remember when he was talking about how he was like #1 in the world in like Diablo 4 hardcore or Path of Exile 4 hardcore?
Elon has some issues, man.
He just decides like every couple months to just rizm with the tism, man, and he's just like,
that's what's
out of nowhere. On. And then he goes back.
And to respond, because there was something, and the reason why I brought up like the why does it have to be one bill, because I do remember there was a conversation at another point about it being more than one, because you could actually have 3 bills per year. So it's like, again, to me, why not have one bill on mandatory spending, one on revenue, and one on federal debt limit? Unless you're trying to, and again, some people might say it's because of midterms, because they want to protect people for the midterms. It's like,
but it's not the protection necessarily. It's you're rolling the dice that some of those bills won't get passed. Whereas, like, if you have everything one bill and you're pretty sure that you have the votes for it, why not go for it?
But if you can get better things, and then the things that you don't lose out on, because again, that's the other issue, is the other things are federal debt limit, spending, and revenue. It's like, I'm sorry, but we should not be increasing our debt limit.
Nope.
We're spending too much. We have too much debt already.
I mean, that's stuff that you can address down the road. Like I said,
down the road, kick the can. That's the thing.
Well,
that's my issue. Is that it's like, let's pass this bill now. It's to me very little difference than let's pass the bill to find out what's in it. Let's pass the bill and then deal with the issues later. When those issues, you know why, but they won't be dealt with is because once this bill is passed, they go into campaign mode, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, give us 2 years, and then we'll be able, give us till next year, and then we'll be able to
I think
something.
it comes down to the confusion behind what a reconciliation bill is actually about, right? Like, this isn't like you can't pass reconciliation with discretionary spending, which is where the big issues are, right? Like this is about what government has to spend money on and what the government does with taxes, and that's it. Like, you can't, there is no broader issue like outside of those things. So like, if they want to address a lot of the pork and USAID stuff and the Doge cuts and stuff like that, legally they can't do it in this bill. So like, they're doing what they can do legally in order to get what they want to go forward, and this is the cornerstone of Trump's economic agenda. And so like, if this doesn't get passed, like, we're all fucked, because all of our taxes are going to go up. It's going to be more expensive to run businesses. It's going to be more expensive to buy goods. There's all types of ramifications where if this bill doesn't go through, like, we're going to find it a lot more expensive to like be living in the United States, and there's going to be a lot less incentive for businesses to come and do business in the United States because of all like the increase in taxes. So that is, I guess we bored Tom to death, so he is no longer with us. And speaking of which, Dutch Butters, I know you have to get going. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Sure. Hey, everybody. See you later. I have to go deal with some real life stuff here. All of a sudden, my wife called me and I got to go deal with some shit. So I'm bouncing out of here. Please come over to Dutch Butters Gaming. Follow us over there. We're making new content almost every single day. Live streams, shorts, podcasts every Tuesday, all kinds of fun stuff. So join me and Salty over there as we play some games. And with that, I have to get out of here, guys. We'll see y'all later. Peace out.
Later, bud.
Right, later, Dutch.
God bless.
Yes. God bless America. All right, guys.
The debate, I think, between these two parties, though, kind of getting back to that, is it's just really stupid. I mean, I just think it's a distraction. That's why I would not be surprised if it was like a 3 or 4D chess type move. I don't think it is, but it wouldn't surprise me if that ended up being the case. Because if anyone, I think it was Megyn Kelly was in an interview recently, and she basically told a story about how she had a conversation with Trump, and I think it was after they had finally reconciled, and he made like this offhand comment as she was leaving about like, hey, it's not bad when they're talking about us though, right? Kind of like a, hey, almost like all that stuff was performative to the point of it, having that and serving that purpose. So we know that he does that a lot. But I think there's also a lot of truth, or at least it makes a lot of sense behind, hey, Elon clearly is not 100% socially there, and so therefore may have said some things and done some things that got him in the hot seat. We also know that if Trump is angry at someone one day, that could easily change overnight as well. I mean, it wasn't long ago that little Marco was little Marco, and now he's the Secretary of State. So these are things that can happen very, very quickly, very easily. But yeah, I don't think that the public fighting is necessarily good. And I think it's worse only because of this specific issue, because there are a lot of people in the chat that obviously are opposed to what I'm saying on this. And hey, I respect y'all's views on this, but no one could deny that there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who were maybe a bit more libertarian minded, who may even be more onto the mindset of where the Doge cuts were. And they're looking at this saying, okay, but why aren't we getting these massive cuts? And it might be because, as you said, because they don't understand how budgetary reconciliation bills work, etc. But I think that they do need to start actually making like the public case of, here's what we're doing and here's what the problem is. Like, have a vote on something that is going to cut, and then have the Democrats actually vote on that. Because at the very least, then you do have something happening. And that's the thing I think people want to see.
Also,
they want to see things happening.
The recommended cuts by Doge equate to about $120 billion, whereas the cuts that this bill is putting
how
forward,
much additional spending?
But there is no additional spending other than border and border security, because essentially what's happening is all the additional spending that people are talking about is that Congressional Budget Office score where because you're codifying tax cuts, we're losing revenue, and so therefore that's an increase in spending.
Yeah,
and it's all smoke and mirrors. It really is, because this reconciliation bill actually cuts but the spending by $1.3 trillion.
How much more is going to military?
I think the only military spending in it has to do with the increase in border security and deportations.
Okay, because that's something I'd look into as well. Because
but that's offset.
We already
some of the
spent
other
way
cuts.
too much on military spending.
Well, you know who hasn't spent enough? Our fantastic super chatters. Touched with Fire for $2. Hello there. Criticless brought me here. Cheers. I don't know why I gave him that accent, but yes, touched by Fire. Thank you for your $2. And Major Chai for $20. Hi guys, I've been traveling and have greatly missed your podcast. YouTube still won't let me gift memberships. Sad face. So here's my $20. Thank you so much, Major Chai. We appreciate you and thank you for tuning in every week. That is great stuff on your part. Okay, guys, speaking of great stuff, let's talk about the Tulsa King spinoff. Now, I don't know if you guys have been watching this show or not, but you know, Tulsa King, starring Sylvester Stallone, has been a very good show. It's a Taylor Sheridan show. It's kind of like Sopranos light, but with like kind of like a lighter twist to it. Sylvester Stallone plays an Italian mobster who goes to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and slowly takes over the weed trade, legal weed trade, and all this other stuff. And it's a good show. I enjoyed the first season. Second season, I was kind of lukewarm on, but it was still not a bad season. And apparently, in season 3, they're going to be setting up a spinoff starring everyone's favorite Jedi, Samuel L. Jackson. And basically, they're going to be spinning him off into Nola King, or, you know, as Odin knows, that's New Orleans. So King of New Orleans. And basically, Sam Jackson's going to be starring in his version of Sylvester Stallone's show. And this is just an expansion on the Sheridan verse, I guess, because like he can basically make anything he wants over at Paramount currently. But I know that Tom Connors Jr. is a big fan of Tulsa King, so I wanted to get his take on this proposed spinoff. You there, Tom Connors Jr.?
Hold on
There
to
he
your
is.
butts.
Yes, exactly.
No, Tulsa King was one of the greatest shows ever, and I'm looking forward to this because it makes sense. Samuel Jackson is a perfect kind of guy to probably put in a situation like this. I think it's going to be highly entertaining. I didn't dislike the second season as much as you did, Matt, but
I didn't dislike it. I just didn't think it was as good as the first season.
I agree. It is what it is. But that being said, I'm looking forward to more, and inject more of this into my veins, please.
I really hope that they knock Sam Jackson's character out of the park, because the last TV show he did, which was Secret Wars, he was not good in.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Blaine, what are people on Criticless saying about Tulsa King?
Dude, they love it. It's a 84% audience score, and that's by like right at about 50 people. So yeah, everybody that I've seen likes it for the most part. I liked it a lot. I gave it about an 82. Now I will say, like with you, the second season hurt it, quote unquote, a little bit for me as far as my overall score so far. I didn't dislike it. I still had fun with it. I think it just didn't hit quite as hard as the first season did, and there were some hammy things that it leaned into a little bit more that I didn't like as much. But I love the Taylor Sheridan shows and all of his universes that he's doing. I've watched all the stuff connected to Yellowstone. I think that he is one of the few people in television that just knocks it out of the park with almost everything that he touches. And I love all his stuff for the most part. I mean, it's all in that rad to most excellent as far as Criticless lingo goes. For me, I like it all. So this is a win-win. People love Samuel L. Jackson. I think that this could be an opportunity for him to do something really different with some of the universes and types of shows that he's doing. And I think New Orleans would be a really interesting component in this world. It's part of, at least with the Tulsa stuff that we haven't seen yet. And I'm interested to see the mob stuff coming out of that area and how it will connect. And if we see Stallone kind of get pulled over into some of that, which I'm assuming we will, and go into that show some, which could be really cool. And we start to see a lot of the cross-pollination between all of this, similar to how we have in the Yellowstone world. So I'm game for it. This sounds awesome. Like I said, I'm on board with everything that Taylor Sheridan touches at this point. Because, I mean, he has... with some of his spinoffs for like Yellowstone, we're talking like 100% for me, like excellent stuff that he's been putting out. So I'm game.
And everyone, please keep in mind that Blaine has bad takes on everything. Take it with a grain
keep
of
that in
salt.
mind. Yeah, a big grain.
Yeah, Odin, you used to live in New Orleans. Would you be excited to see a Sam Jackson-based show there?
So first off, please stop saying New Orleans. It makes me want to come through this computer and choke you. It's New Orleans, okay? So New Orleans, that's how you pronounce it.
Nolans.
I don't know if that's worse or not, but people from New Orleans at least will say Nolans, but yeah, New Orleans, I hate it. Anyway, as far as the story, yeah, I think Taylor Sheridan should always be given benefit of the doubt with anything he creates. I think he has been able to prove himself over and over again. Not everything he's made has been gold. Not everything he's made has been perfect, but he has been consistently good with most of the things that he has done. And I think that I am absolutely willing to give him some room to run here. And New Orleans, absolutely, you could do a lot of stuff with it. Now, if it becomes something where they are kind of leaving behind the immense amount of corruption in the city, then I'll have an issue with it. But if it can be a show that actually dives into the terrible politics of the city, how terribly run the city has been for decades, and all those other things in between, I would love that show. Basically, if it's a show that would make the hardcore New Orleans residents who are obsessed with it, who have nothing bad to say about it, who always have to protect it, even when what's being said about it is true. If they get mad by the show, it's probably doing something right. If it's doing it in that specific regard, so.
Knowing Sheridan, he will. So,
yeah. Quick question for the panel: have any of you guys been watching Landman, which is another Sheridan show?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think that's possibly my least favorite of his shows, personally.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about it, which I think my wife's partially to blame. She hates both the women characters in that show with like a passion, and we were watching it together. So,
you mean both smoking hot women characters?
Yes,
women that actually like the men in the show. Yeah,
right.
That's a travesty.
Right.
I'm sorry, she's wrong because Billy Bob Thornton.
No, I agree there. He's excellent in it. He's so good in the show.
If there's anybody in the world who can play I got zero fucks to give about your shit better than Billy Bob Thornton, I'd like to meet them.
Yeah, guys, there's a scene in Landman where Billy Bob Thornton's character gets his pinky crushed by a pipe, and he just breaks it off and asks for a Dr. Pepper. Like hardest fucking scene I think I've ever seen in a TV show.
What's fucked up is that probably happened to him in real life.
Finger? Yeah,
he's like all of a sudden he doesn't have a finger. I'm sitting here going, did they just do that this whole time because he probably lost his fingers at some point?
I mean, he is the same guy who wore a vial of Angelina Jolie's blood around his neck.
It's Billy Bob Thornton. You could tell me anything about this man, and I'd probably believe it.
Yeah. Did y'all watch Goliath, which he was in years ago on Amazon?
Yes.
Dude, it's so good.
Especially in the last couple of years, like a lot of the shit that was in that show that was like before, and then the stuff that's happened over the last few years, it's like, man, this is ahead of its time.
It's worth going back to if you did not watch Goliath, and if you like Landman and want that. It's not exactly the same vibe,
that's
but
what I went for the fix. Yeah,
it's basically the same character though.
Yeah. In certain ways, it's the zero fucks. It's
like if he had a brother that was a lawyer,
right?
Yeah. But the funny thing about Landman, so I have a good friend of mine whose family's in the oil business in Texas, and they actually know the guy who consulted on that show for like all the oil stuff, and they were like, this is the most accurate representation of what the oil business is like on TV. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because like there is a lot of like crazy stuff that goes on with like theft and drug cartels and stuff like that, where like the oil business is basically like, yeah, this is an acceptable loss. It's like, oh, they stole a couple of our airplanes, that's fine, it's just cost doing business. But it is like I think I've never been a big Taylor Sheridan fan because I was not a fan of Yellowstone or any of the offshoots or anything like that. But I have really liked Tulsa King, and I have really liked Landman. So like, those are two shows that I feel are definitely.
But you liked Andor.
Dude, Andor's fucking good. I will die on that hill.
It's so slow.
Andor actually has some people that are out there defending this show for some reason.
That is true.
It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Guys, if you watch Andor,
it's not going to fix Star Wars.
If you watch Andor season 1 to the end of season 2, then Rogue One, and then go right into the original trilogy, it's amazing. It changes everything. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. You guys probably think The Wire is boring too.
You're boring. You're boring.
Speaking
I have
of boring,
issues with Rogue One. That's my issue. But
speaking of boring, guys, let's talk a little bit about Doctor Who.
Can we not?
So one of the most beloved sci-fi series on the planet has been on a steady kind of like downward trajectory, and most recently, Shitty Gatwa, which I think is how you correctly pronounce his name, he basically realized that this was hurting his non-existent career, so he decided to quit Doctor Who after 2 seasons, and what they regenerated him into was the character of Rose, who was the Doctor's companion for the reboot for the first handful of seasons. She was the companion for Robert Eccleston, I think that's his name, and David Tennant. And she's part of the lore, but like the fact that reportedly Russell T Davies, who was the original showrunner, and he came back and decided to ruin his show by making it all about being gay. He came in and he basically at the last minute pulled in Billie Piper, who plays Rose, to come in and be regenerated. She did it as a favor. They have no idea what they're going to do with her. They have no idea if she's going to be returning or what. They have no idea if she's even the Doctor. But they wanted to do it. They wanted to do it as like a last ditch attempt to save the show from being canceled. So they wanted to create buzz and stuff about it. But it's causing amongst Doctor Who fans, the dozen that are still out there, they're like, oh my God, what the fuck's going on here? Like, how can he regenerate into a different character that already exists? So I kind of want to get everyone's take on this, but Blaine, what's been the feedback on Criticless from Doctor Who fans, the 1 or 2 of them that maybe might be using your site, about this development?
Yeah, I mean, most of the fans they abandoned ship a while back and now just hate watch at this point. And I mean, I went through a phase where I was a big fan and I loved David Tennant and Matt Smith and those years and even Eccleston's short run. Like, this little move makes no sense for the fans, at least as far as if whatever this character's being brought back for. I think most people think that she's not gonna beat the Doctor because that first off just doesn't make any sense with the lore, which who knows, they've abandoned any point of making sense anymore, like especially with this most recent seasons. Like they don't seem to care about the fans or the lore or any of it. I have a feeling that what will happen is that she will be back for like a special episode, which they regularly do with Doctor Who in between seasons, or like a miniseries, like a Christmas episode, something, and then we will actually get a new Doctor. This is just, like you said, a play for attention, but the problem was it was still just more bad attention for a series that people have all but entirely abandoned, and the audience that they were pandering to for the past few years also just don't even really seem to care about any of it, and are actually seem to kind of be mad about this as well. So this seems like a lose-lose all the way around.
Well, speaking of lose, Odin, the big thing about these, nothing to do with you in particular, Odin.
It's like, speaking of losers,
what a loser.
But I was going to say, in terms of like the past 2 seasons of Doctor Who, so Disney has been co-financing these past 2 seasons. So it's been like Disney's Doctor Who essentially. And these are some of the lowest rated Doctor Who seasons ever, especially compared to the amount of money that Disney kind of like, pushed into this franchise. So what's your take on the fact that basically there's a very good possibility that this show might not even get another season because Disney's not seeing any return on their investment?
Yeah, I mean, Disney is not always going to be the one that makes financially wise decisions, though, so don't rule out that possibility, because it's always about, in general, about IP. So maybe they think, oh, just give us 1 more season and maybe we'll start to see some changes. I don't think that's going to happen. But even if they're not the ones that are going to, co-finance it, I would not be surprised if someone out there, maybe even the BBC themselves, try to force out 1 more season of some kind. What needs to happen, not necessarily that this will happen, but what needs to happen is they need to take a break. and then just have a reboot like they had back when Eccleston came out as the Doctor, and let people who actually love the series have the time to flesh something out, get the right person to be the Doctor, and if they were really wise, they would do away with somehow and retcon all of the things that have happened since the Jodie Whittaker era at least started. But yeah.
So Tom Connors Jr., I know you don't give a fuck about this Doctor Who shit, but what's your take on the greater implications of Disney, supporting niche sci-fi franchises?
He did say "be right back," so he may have.
What
actually...
the fuck part of BRB don't you understand?
That's what I was trying to say. He's busy, okay?
Right.
He's busy.
I don't give a fuck about Doctor Who. Don't care.
Don't care, don't you know?
And I don't care.
You hoser.
Yeah,
That's
and
actually Jim
even,
Carrey, but yeah.
I know.
It's like even the Capaldi years didn't really do a whole lot of favors for, because he was like, people were kind of so-so on him as well. So it's been a long bad run for Doctor Who fans.
Let's say let's have David Tennant, Matt Smith. People debate over who's better, but they're like up here. For Capaldi, we're talking about maybe a step down, okay?
Right.
So it's like a step down, but it's not terrible, right? You're still in there, and then you get to Whittaker, and it's like, I'm sorry, the floor's just fallen off, and where the hell are you now? And then you get to Shooty, and then it's like, wow, now we're in the depths of hell. That's how low we are in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I feel bad for all the Whovians out there because they don't ask for much. They just want good stories.
I don't feel bad for the ones that continue to watch and support the show, though, because they are the ones that are enabling them. Because if they had no people watching, then, again, they'd be forced to either go on hiatus and hopefully something could change, or they would actually be forced to make some serious changes.
Right. Well, and hopefully they've seen that audience is much smaller than the ones that have abandoned it, because that is abundantly clear at this point. And so, but as we know, at least if Disney is attached, they can't take a freaking hint for anything. So if they're still attached, they'll proceed in driving it deeper into the ground unless they've started learning lessons, which we haven't seen a whole lot of signs of.
They should get Tony Gilroy to produce Doctor Who. That'd fix it.
Yeah.
Speaking of fixing it, we got some members chats here. We got Caveat Ties for 1 month. How can New Orleans be corrupt? New Orleans. How can New Orleans be corrupt?
New Orleans.
Women are in charge of there.
That's right. LaToya the Destroyer, as she is known.
Oh, my God.
Oh, let's just, how bad things were. So during the whole COVID stuff with all the restrictions, there at one point was this terrible travesty where a building collapsed. And because of the COVID restrictions, they couldn't go in to try to save or get the bodies out for an extended period of time. So much so that apparently there was a dead body that was full on display that they tried to cover, but the wind blew the thing that tried to cover it because they couldn't get close to it because of the stupid restrictions in the city. Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Right, New Orleans.
Yep. That's New Orleans, everybody. So again, if they do a Taylor Sheridan show where they go into all that corruption and expose the nonsense, it is really the murder capital of the world. However, one of the ways they get around their numbers is by not reporting murders for certain situations. I think it used to be that if they died at the hospital, it wasn't called a murder. Was kind of how they got around some of it. Yeah.
Odin, we all know it's George Bush's fault.
Yes, of course.
Indeed. All right, and Major Chai, member for 17 months, could care less about Doctor Who now. I stopped regularly watching during Capaldi's era and completely gave up shortly after that. I think you're not alone in that, Major Chai. A lot of people seem to check out during Capaldi's era because, oddly enough, that's where it started going woke, right? About midway through Capaldi's run, Moffat started getting a lot more political, and then they went to Cibaldi. I think that's his name, Chris Cibaldi. And the Jodie Whittaker era, and then the what was that kids episode, Timeless Children or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That was basically the thing that broke the fan base, and they were like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." And then it's never recovered from there. And then Russell T Davies came back, and he was going to be the resurgence because he was back when Doctor Who was good, and he just made it even worse because he made it gayer and even more political. And nobody liked Shitty Gatwa either as the Doctor. So, but what's funny, do you guys remember the by Regeneration, where basically David Tennant as
Oh.
Doctor Who is still out there somewhere. He just kind of like fucked off, but like he still exists in the universe somewhere. So
Yeah.
like they're like, if this shitty Gatwa guy doesn't work out, we can just go back to Tennant, because everyone
Right.
loves Tennant, right? So it's weird.
But well, and now the weird thing is that now there's also a stank on Tennant's Doctor,
Yeah.
where he left on a good note and people loved him, and now he was a part of that, and everybody's like, screw him too. I don't want anything to do with his ass either.
Yeah, but also just like, Tennant came out with some very controversial political stances, and so now like his fan
Yeah.
base is like half turned on him. So like,
Yeah.
even if he comes back as a Doctor, people are going to be like, I don't like that guy anymore. I'm not gonna watch. But Doctor Who's in a really bad position right now, worse than Star Wars or Star Trek, because it's not in the position where people are apathetic and they just don't care. It's in a position where they're like, fuck this show, I'm never coming back to it, no matter what they do. Right? So that's rough. It's very rough. You know what isn't rough, guys? Salty Saturdays and fantastic panel of nerds. Thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I know Dutch had to leave because he had some car issues he had to deal with. But for those of you who stayed, thank you so much. Before we get going, though, like, I just want to call up Hemorrhoid Hertz for $2 Australian, because he is up very early in the morning to catch the very end of the show. Good morning, friends. Slept in, but I've made it. Good morning, Hemorrhoid Hertz. Always appreciate to see you here. Odin from O&B Reviews. I just want to remind everyone that Odin doesn't like pineapple on pizza. So
Yes.
his opinions are already in question. But any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you continue to support the most terrible things of all, including pineapple on pizza and Andor, which it's a great way to put yourself to sleep if you really want to fall asleep pretty quickly. But yeah, you can find me at OMB Reviews on all the different platforms. You can find me also over on Criticless, where I post my reviews and upcoming videos. Tomorrow, Box Office Breakdown, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll talk about how bad the latest John Wick film, really not John Wick, Ballerina, has done. And again, I don't think it deserves to flop, but at the same time, when you're spending $90 million on a movie that you know is not going to make as much as your others, you're kind of asking for it in a bit. And then Box Office Breakdown article on geeksandgamers.com, usually going live sometime Sunday or Monday. Thank you as always.
All right. And I'm not sure if Tom's back yet, but Tom Connors Jr. likes turtles, and he hosts Midnight's Edge After Dark, and Midnight's Edge Radio. So go check him out and follow him over there. Tom, if you are back, feel free to hop in at any point.
You can find me Midnight's Edge After Dark, all those fine places, and wherever action figures are sold.
Oh.
And what do you like,
my
Tom?
own?
I like turtles.
I can buy my own. I can buy my own Tom Connors.
Why not? Everyone else is. And finally,
You could have your own bat, Tom, for $19.99 plus shipping and handling.
Look at that.
Today.
There it is.
finally, our guest du jour, the man with the worst takes in movies, Criticless Blaine. Blaine, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Well, I mean, as you say, like, you can find all of the worst takes from me on criticless.com, so definitely do that. Yeah, and you can find us in Android and Apple app stores as well, so you can download the app or just go to the website, either or. And I am kind of a man about town. You can find me just about anywhere on the YouTubes at this point. Mondays, I'm on Monday Night Hangover with Drunk 3PO. Wednesdays, quite often, most of the time, at least every other week, I'm on Fear the Beardos channel, where we do manly as fuck movies on Wednesdays now. So we do macho manly movies on our Wednesday streams, which is fun, on his Bro Science show with X-Wing. And so we do that. And then I do Criticless Cast. If you're not subbed to Criticless Cast, that'd be great. We do movie reviews on there. We've lately been doing critically hated, audience-loved series. So we've been doing things that the critics don't like. We recently did Eurotrip, which was fun last week. This upcoming week, we're tossing around what we're going to do. We've been polling the audience on these films to see what everybody kind of wants us to review. So those have been fun to do. So I'm kind of, like I said, I'm all over, and I think I'm going to start doing some video game streams with Geeks and Gamers. I think I'm going to be doing some of the new Switch to Mario Kart streams that they've been doing. So because there are a lot of discussions about adding video games to Criticless. It is asked daily at this point when video games are coming. So there's a lot of talk of that. So if you want to see video games in Criticless, then make sure to get on the app and subscribe, join the Crit Club, support us in any way you can. We really appreciate it, and just let us don't let me know if you want to see video games. They'll be there eventually.
When are they going to be on there? When?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're talking about maybe even crowdfunding that, or at least part of it. So,
nice.
Oh wait, was that a Switch?
I did get a Switch too. I got a Steam Deck.
Dude, I've got a Steam Deck too. I love it so much. Steam Decks are so cool.
Yes.
I'm big fan of the Steam Deck. I don't know if you know, they make a docking station like a Switch where you can play it on your TV, and I got one of those as well. So
I still need to get that. But if anyone has recommendations on Steam Deck, I just recently got it. I'd appreciate it.
Nice. I can recommend some games for you. I've played some cool stuff on there. So
you should try watching Andor on your Stream Deck.
Don't do that.
All right, guys. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who gave us super chats during the course of the show. Mexican Iron Man, Jeremiah Hembry, Mephisto's Movie Reviews, John Yulden, Ikthulu, Touched with Fire, Major Chai Chai, and Hemorrhoid Hurts. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate y'all. Guys, we've had kind of a weird couple weeks here on the show. We've had panelists canceling on us, guests canceling on us, me getting booked on the studio during the exact time we have to go live, and of course, people showing up completely unprepared to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about, as usual. But I had a great time today, even though I had the whole like throat clearing thing. And
you stopped glitching.
Yeah, well, I think my thing stopped uploading, so like we'll have to wait and see. But had a great time, and we will be back next week, same salty time, same salty channel, for all the best salty takes on congressional budgetary spending.
Oh my gosh, please no.
So apologize for that part, but Trump versus Elon, couldn't help it. Anyway, thank you so much for Blaine for coming in. Definitely, if you haven't been on Criticless, it is the best movie review site / app out there. Puts Rotten Tomatoes to shame, Metacritic to shame. I don't know why you guys spend any time dealing with those things anymore when you got Criticless to go to. So definitely check that out. And be sure to stick around for Mephisto's Movie Reviews, the Real McCoy podcast. I think Tom Connors Jr. is going to hop over there. We'll be talking about Revenge of the Nerds, and it is Mephisto's 46th birthday. So gotta wish him a happy birthday. Oh, and we got one last, just under the wire, members chat coming in. There we go. Padre Cosinero became a YouTube member. Thank you, Padre Cosinero.
Thank you, Father.
Yes, indeed. Yes, Padre. All right, guys. So be sure to tune in next week. Same salty time, same salty channel. And as always, stay salty, my friends.